Welcome to the Real Estate Talk podcast with myself, Oliver Ingalls, and my esteemed co-host, Benji Weinberger. If you learn anything from today's podcast, if you take away any hints, any tips, any nuggets, we would love for you to like, subscribe, and share.
And then as all of those stories go, my body decided it didn't want to work anymore. But I dislocated both my knees a couple of times and I was in a wheelchair for 3 months just because I couldn't move.
So what would you say in one sentence to the person who makes the decisions that said to you, don't do social media, now looking where you're sat now with the business you've built?
Hand over the CEO role to someone younger.
Wow.
It's just the truth. I think I'm one of the most hated estate agents in the UK. If you're not pissing enough people off, you're not doing it the right way. I was diagnosed with severe anxiety and depression. I was having panic attacks twice a day, every single day for about 3 months. I actually ended up in hospital for 7 days because I couldn't walk.
On today's podcast, we have Oliver Howard.
Oliver claims he is the most hated estate agent in the UK and claims that his content is there to piss people off. He used to be a rugby player at Saracens and also has produced some music for some very unnamed music producers.
Was awarded the Best Young Agent following the Business Awards in 2023 and is currently in the top 10 most followed estate agents in the UK and social media. We dive into how his former corporate company told him to stop posting. And the biggest deal of Oliver's career at £3.5 million, we dive into how he found the buyer.
And Oliver is the only agent at his previous company, Marsh & Parsons, to hit every single target within 1 year.
Let's go. Ollie, thank you very much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I just wanted to say very quickly, you're all over my socials at the moment. I don't know if the algorithms picked it up.
I'm glad.
I literally wake up every morning at the moment, I'm seeing your face, so...
I'm glad. It means something's going right at that point and I'm not wasting time unnecessarily. Perfect.
Okay, mate. So how we like to start our podcasts, okay, is we like to kind of do a bit of a rewind on people's lives. Our listeners love to hear about where your journey started, starting from kind of schooling and your upbringing. So take us back to Ollie of 10, 11, 12 years old. Where were you? What were you doing?
So I grew up in Portsmouth, went to a really nice school, to be fair, went to a private school. I was an awful student. I was in detention probably 3-4 times a week is the reality. And they also had headmasters detentions where you spent Saturdays in the morning writing apology letters to teachers for not doing homework and things like that. So I wasn't a good student, but they never kicked me out because I was very good at sport.
Nice.
And that's why I stayed there. But just continued being a bad student up to GCSEs. Ended up getting some quite good GCSEs because I had lots of tutoring on the side. And then left that kind of school completely and followed a rugby career.
Okay.
And went to a specific feeder college for rugby. Ended up getting into the Saracens Academy, trained with, when I was like 16, 17, training with Farrell, Atoje, all of those kind of people. Wow. Didn't quite make it to the Saracens team, ended up playing in the championship instead for Bedford Blues. And then as all of those stories go, my body decided it didn't want to work anymore. My knees broke, well, not broke, but I dislocated both my knees a couple of times and I was in a wheelchair for 3 months just because I couldn't move. So sport was out of the question now. And I can't even play, I like playing squash as well. I can't do it because if I go too fast on one knee at the moment, it will pop out.
Oh.
So I'm stuck to very gently running, hence the weight gain over the last couple of years and made it nice and easy. And then I went to uni, went and studied psychology in North Wales.
Yeah.
And then got really into music. I've had like a million different lives and I'm 28. And then did that and became a producer.
Wow.
At the same time and ended up doing a lot of production for some quite big Scandinavian artists because I was in that kind of sector. My ex-partner was Swedish and so on, and knew quite a few people through that. And Ghost produced an entire album for someone that made just over £2.5 million off that album. And I got paid £150 as a uni student. I can't say who it was.
Another NDA.
It was an EDM artist, essentially. it's not like a Swedish House Mafia type thing, but another big artist. And then after that, I was just like, in that sector, once you become a ghost producer, it's really hard to become an artist at that point. And I just went, do you know what? Enough. I'm done with this. I can't be living off £150 every 3 months. Like, this is not good. I then but when I was in uni, I was in Sweden quite a lot with my ex, and was actually going to be moving over there full time, getting away from everything. And then things happened. I didn't move over there. But I ended up then after that coming straight to London and getting into property because her sister's husband was a massive estate agent in Sweden, and he was pulling in ridiculous amounts of money, driving all the flashy cars. He had a boat, big house, all of the above. And I was like, that seems all right.
I can get that.
Doesn't seem too bad. I'll take that. And then ended up literally the day that I found out I wasn't going to be moving to Sweden, went straight and started putting my CV in for interviews in London. And then ended up at Marsh & Parsons.
Nice.
And that's how I then got into being an estate agent in the first place.
So let's rewind slightly. So you obviously had an aspiring career to be a rugby player. You know, you've gone to probably one of the best rugby team academies in the UK certainly, but maybe across the globe. Your goal and mindset must have been, okay, this is my career now. This is how my next 10, 15 years of my life is going to play out.
Yeah.
And then suddenly within a year or two,
literally like within the space of one training session, one of my knees came back, and then the next one went after that.
And so that must be hard to have that dream wiped within minutes.
Yeah.
Like, talk us through that.
I mean, I saw myself as the future England scrum half.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. Like, I was way outperforming a lot of the people in my position in the country at that point. And that hurt, as in like going from seeing that career progression and that goal to the dream that I had when I was little to then being in a wheelchair was just like, I was very, very lost at that point. And at that age, I was still at like the feeder academy as well, the feeder school, while everyone else was playing rugby at the same time, still doing their thing, still pushing on. And I was just sat there on the sidelines kind of going, like, what do I do right now? Type thing.
Yeah.
But I tried to flip it around because I'm not someone that would sit there and mope over something. It was a massive change in my life. But that's when I went to uni and did the psychology stuff, because I ended up getting interested in the sports psychology side. So I was on the sidelines, but all right, let's do something with being on the sidelines type thing. But losing that dream, it's like the first big setback I ever had in my life.
Yeah,
and it's even worse when it's something you can't control.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing to do with my conditioning or looking after myself. It's just the way my body was structured meant that I wasn't meant to be doing it. So that was the bit that hurt as well, because if it's something I could control, I can kind of blame myself and work on it. But yeah, it wasn't a fun time.
I was going to say, but I think those setbacks are what make you as a person, right? And it's your journey. So obviously you had the setback with the rugby career, then the music career, and now obviously you find yourself in real estate. So how long were you at Marsh & Parsons for before you set up by yourself?
Not very long in comparison to a lot of people. I was only there for about 5 years. So I started in their Shepherd's Bush office, which wasn't the biggest business office. In fact, it was probably one of the worst ones, but it was a very good feeder office. If you got good in that office, you then go to a bigger office and you do a million times better. That's what happened to me. I then got moved to Fulham. And then very, very quickly became their top performing negotiator.
Nice.
Very quickly. Broke all of the targets they had set to the point where they didn't know what to do with the last target I hit. Proper corporate. Here's your target. Go and hit it. Oh, sorry, actually, we don't know what to do now. What have you done?
Yeah.
Their big thing was the dream car target. You had to do just over £750,000 of business in a year, including the way their commission structure worked, which was naturally trying to take you down slightly. And I did that. And that was actually my turning point for leaving. I was meant to get a dream car. Wasn't asking for a Bugatti or a Pagani or something like that, where I'm just going to break their bank account. I wanted an F-Type Jag. V8 F-Type, about 35 grand.
Yeah.
Fine. And they turned around and said, no, you can't do that anymore. You can't have that. You can't have a dream car. Here's a list of cars we can give you instead.
And what was on the list?
The exact same car that I had from the last structure, but in the family version.
The estate version.
The estate version. And like the most
As a
exciting
single guy.
The most exciting car they gave me was a BMW Z4.
Yeah.
Still a nice car, but that's not a dream car.
Yeah,
It's not. And I just turned around to him and said, I'm sorry, this is a joke.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
That was one of the straws. And then the other one was I started doing video. They didn't like that either, despite selling a £2.5 million house in Fulham through a YouTube video.
Yeah.
They said, never do that again. Never try that again. That is not on brand for us. And then I just said, look, there's nothing else I can do here. You're not giving me what I've earned and you're not letting me grow. Why am I still here?
Yeah.
And so when was that, roughly, timing-wise?
That
when you left?
was, well, what are we now? 2025. So that was mid 2022. I left.
And you left.
And then, so over the last 3 years, obviously, socials has moved on quite a lot in a
100%.
professional way. Are they still in that mindset?
100%. Was my
wow.
favorite things ever was when I left and started doing the socials properly. When I got my first instructions with my company, all of a sudden they started trying to do video on Instagram, and they tried and they did 2 videos that got 200 views each. Never did a video again after that. Never tried. But it doesn't shock me either. It's run by people of an era that don't get it. They don't understand why it's important. For as long as they don't think it's important, it's great for all of us that know that it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're still in that mindset.
So what would you say in one sentence to the person who makes the decisions that said to you, don't do social media, now looking where you're sat now with the business you've built?
Hand over the CEO role to someone younger.
Wow.
It's just the truth.
Yeah.
Because
Lovely.
like all of the upper management were in there. Nothing wrong with it, but all the upper management were in their mid to late 60s, retirement age, where we've done it this way for so long, it works. What's the point in breaking the mold?
Yeah.
But now, like, the amount of instructions I've got on my own dwarfs 2 of their offices in the area on its own.
Yeah.
It's like, and most of that's from socials. It doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah, it would just be they need to modernize. Full stop.
So, okay, let's go back slightly. So you're at Marsh & Parsons. You go in what, as a trainee negotiator, sales negotiator, standard negotiator. You've obviously come to UK, put lots of CVs out there, and Marsh & Parsons has been the one that you've chosen.
Yeah.
What was your upbringing like at Marsh & Parsons? Did you have good training? Like, what is there tips that are people who are, starting their careers now? Like, what would be that tip for the first couple of years that you would give someone?
So I got quite lucky in the fact that my regional director at the time was a guy called Ben G, who now owns Hatton Home. Phenomenal agent. He's amazing. Really gives you the courage. My manager was
You can swear.
She was a bitch. She was an awful person. So she didn't help me a lot. She very much favored the other negotiator that was in the office that had been there with her for years.
Yeah.
I got nothing at all. The one thing I learned from that, though, and the start was, most people, when they come into it, are kind of scared to call people. Most people don't like, I don't like making cold calls or anything like that nowadays, but you do it. And that's where like that office came into such a big play, because you had to bring people from around to see the stuff in that area.
Yeah, nice.
So you need to get comfortable calling people and kind of pushing yourself out of that comfort zone just to get started, because you lay that foundation at the start. Yeah, you might not like doing it, but you've got it in you to do it and you don't hesitate in the future. Yeah. That was the main thing I learned from that office.
I think that's brilliant advice.
100%.
We, meet new people every single day, and sometimes they're so scared of picking up the phone. Yeah. And look, we know we always have to put ourselves out of our comfort zone every single day. That's how you grow. But now we live in an era where, like you said, it's more asset driven than it is geographical driven. So you're going to have to speak to people. You're going to have to go meet people you don't know, and learning that skill set from an early age is vital.
100%. And you need to, people like, especially in our industry, obviously we work in slightly different sectors. But in my sector, people always have something and they've got the budget for it. We're not talking 25, 30 million quid where you kind of can get what you want most of the time. You need to learn how to pull people over, show them something they didn't want to see in the first place, because they will likely end up buying it if you've got that intuition in you. Yeah. The best thing, one of the reasons why I think I was the top negotiator at Marsh & Parsons was when I moved to Fulham. I noticed very quickly all of the big buyers in Fulham were in Chelsea and South Kent. That's where they come from.
Yeah.
People in Fulham were buying in Brook Green, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And that's what I just did. Just kept pulling people over. And
Nice.
because of where I got set up from, it was easy.
Yeah.
No trouble.
And it is one of, Ollie and I were speaking about this literally just before, that I'm concerned about the younger generation who, they see there's so many things that agents have to do nowadays. Social media, you have to be in the right places, sit on the high street, and they're the kind of quick, easy wins. But there's no substitute for old-fashioned agency of just picking up the bloody phone, which so many people are petrified of.
Yeah.
And I am concerned about the younger generation for that.
I think for them, it's not needed. My little sister's just turned 18 and I've got a little brother who's 13. I can't remember the last time they called me and I'm their brother. They just text me and WhatsApp me all the time.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the differentiating factor at the same time, those that come in, because it's a catch-22. The people in the younger generations are going to come in and they're going to batter social media for property in 2 seconds flat. They're the next ones to worry about for that side of it.
Yeah.
But it's also, if they can get into the mindset of just pick up the phone, like you can do business after that on WhatsApp through text once you know the person. But just starting with a WhatsApp message or a text, it just doesn't cut it still. We're still in it, like you talk about when you're selling anything over £3 million, most of these people aren't going to be, well, some of them are, but most of them aren't going to be 20, 21 years old. They're going to be late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
They still like to do stuff over the phone.
Yes.
So you need to learn how to deal with the demographic you're going into. You're selling a 19-year-old's house at 25 million quid. Yeah, text him, WhatsApp him, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
But you need to learn who you're going to be working with.
Did you have any funny or scary situations of having to be on the phone back in the corporate day?
Oh, probably quite a few.
What's the one that springs?
It was the funniest one that I had, and I will remember it to this day, was it was after, so my youngest person that's ever bought property through me was a 19-year-old that bought a £2.5 million house in Fulham. His dad was on the board of a big company that just gone to the stock market, and on the viewing, as trust fund baby as you can get, full stop. And on the call afterwards, when he called me and he was like, well, look, we want to put in an offer. And I was speaking to the dad, and the dad was like, well, I'm a bit concerned because it's quite a tall, thin house, proper townhouse. Maybe it doesn't work for you. In the background, you hear the son go, but daddy, I want a townhouse. And it was on speaker and everyone heard it. And everyone was sat there going, oh my fucking God, like what is going on here? And it got recorded, obviously, because all calls are recorded through those offices. Luckily, it never got played out again. But that was one of the worst ones I've ever had in that sense, because it was just like, oh my God, what are we dealing with here? Like, this is mental. But I've had loads of calls where I used to be trained, when you speak to a certain type of clientele, you have to speak in a certain way.
Yes.
I was always trained when you speak with investment bankers or really high profile people that you talk a little bit differently. You can be a lot more straight and to the point with buyers. And it's something I'm not proud of, but I remember saying to a buyer over the phone, which my manager looked at me straight away and went, what the fuck are you doing? This is ridiculous. I basically said, if you're too poor to buy this house, we'll find you something cheaper. Within an hour, we got an asking price offer on the property and it was sold. It was great.
Wow.
But I was like, I took that advice a bit to heart. And went, come on, here we go. Let's have it. Come on, we'll have a verbal fight. Come on in. Luckily, he took it fine. But I realized very quickly afterwards, the wrong person.
Yeah.
That I could get fired for that in 2 seconds. Luckily, it was one of the most expensive houses that we'd sold in the Shepherd's Bush office.
Yeah.
Kind of went under the radar a little bit, but yeah, there's a few where I've probably pushed it a bit too far, especially in the corporate world.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, a lot of people are petrified of the phones, and we've heard some funny stories of people on the calls. But so your story is really interesting, in as far as a lot of people that I know, at least, who have left the kind of corporate world and taken the leap of faith to either go by themselves or go into the brokerage model, have been people a bit older. And you're a bit younger than most of those people that I have seen take that transition. And I think it's going to be really interesting, people watching this, because there's perhaps people in that boat of a similar age who think, oh, maybe I'm a bit too young to take that leap of faith. I haven't had 10 years experience or 8 years experience in a corporate world. How did you find it when you left M&P to, take that leap of faith to just go it alone.
Yeah, I mean, I was 25, 26 when I started the company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like that was the advice I got from a lot of people when I was talking about going out on my own was don't be naive, don't be stupid, go and join a brokerage. Like at the time, there wasn't a lot to choose from. You either had EXP or Tyronash, and neither were I interested in.
Yeah.
And it kind of like the reason I ended up doing it on my own was out of a necessity as opposed to a want to do it. Just because when I was at M&P, I felt so much was wrong that I had to go and do something different. And I backed myself. It's hard, don't get me wrong. Thinking that it's going to be easy is naive. I left and I was like, do you know what? I've sold so many properties since I've been at M&P. I'm going to have a massive buyer database and seller database. And it's not the case.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the case. A lot of developers that I work with came with me, but they tend to do some stuff on multi-agency most often. But it took some time to work it up again. But you just got to back yourself. As long as especially if you're starting your own brokerage, at least make sure you've got a few years of experience and you know what you're doing. I interview so many people at the moment that don't have any experience in the property sector. And I think coming in very raw and going self-employed straight away can be a recipe for disaster without even knowing what a conveyancer is type thing. So have some experience under your belt. You don't have to be the world's greatest estate agent as long as you've got a plan to make it a bit niche, even niche for your location. My property model, my brokerage model is not niche in itself. I do the same thing as DDRE does. DDRE does the same thing as, well, not EXP, but the same kind of thing. But in my area that I started in, from Fulham up to Shepherd's Bush and that little West London pocket, no one had done it. They were all old, sleepy agents. So it was quite easy to break that niche. But my advice is, if you've got a thought, an idea, back yourself, go for it. If you're like 25, 26, if I failed, I have more than enough time to start again.
Yeah, I love that.
Full stop.
Yeah.
And are there things that you did at the beginning, perhaps, that you might now not have done at the beginning?
100%. Like, I was really chucking out cheap fees to start with, which put me in a really, really tough financial spot because listings, social media marketing, videos, all that kind of stuff, it takes time or money. And I was throwing out such cheap fees just to get instructions on the books that I just didn't, I think I lost money in my first year type thing.
What fees were you offering?
Like 1%.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the problem was,
with all the content.
Correct, exactly. But because the area I was working in, agents would drop their pants to get properties. So I had to try and compete and go even lower because I was a new entity.
Yeah.
Whereas the reality is, probably most of those sellers wouldn't have had a problem with paying me a higher fee. But I just went in going, okay, well, look, new agency, I'll do you this fee. Let's just get it on and get it sold. Most of them sold, which was great. But just all the fees combined and so on, the costs. Yeah. As I said, like, I think I made a net negative of about 20 grand in year one. Luckily that changed in year two. Thank Christ for that. But yeah, it's don't just throw yourself out there type thing. Like, not all business is good business at the end of the day. Something I learned very, very well about 6 months ago with a different seller. But yeah, that's the thing that I made a mistake with. All the content and stuff I was putting out there was a bit more risque than I'm doing right now, but that actually set me apart even further. That I'm fine with. Some of it is cringy as anything, like me dancing in my living room, like proper TikTok stuff. Yeah. That I do regret a little bit, but it worked at the time. Yeah. But yeah, that's the one thing, is lowering your own value. Yeah. That's what screwed me over.
Really good advice. So going back to the introduction, there was a couple of statements that we read out to everybody, and I want to read them out to you, and I want to start back. You were awarded the Best Young Agent following the Business Award in 2023, and more recently, the top 10 most followed estate agents in the UK on social media. When did you put your first video out?
2022, when I was at my old company.
So what was it? Can you remember what that first video was?
I do so well. It was back when I used to do my 60-second tours, which is where I would sprint around a house. The most appalling quality of video, because the camera's like that all the time, before I knew gimbals existed. And I'd sprint around a house. I think it was like an 1,800 square foot house in 60 seconds. I was in much better shape then as well. I don't think
I was going to say, not with your knees.
Not nowadays. I don't think I'd be able to do it anymore. But I remember that so well because that was that was the first video I put up there.
Okay.
And it went on Instagram.
Yep.
And for my first video, and I had 5 followers, it got 10,500 views.
Wow.
I put it up on LinkedIn.
Yep.
That was the bit that made me laugh, because everyone from the company, even the managing directors, all liked that video on LinkedIn, but apparently it was wrong. It wasn't okay. But yeah, I remember that. It was a house on Waterford Road in Fulham, and it was a 60-second tour.
And
yeah.
so what gave you the inspiration to do that? Like, you were obviously sat there at Marston Parsons. No one's done it around you. Okay, you're probably starting to watch more agents in London and so on starting to do it. But what made you get up and do it?
As much as I disagree with him as a person, the one company in person that made me make that jump and start with the videos was Tyrone Ash.
Yep.
As I said, different ideologies, but I give him his props. He was one of the first people to actually try to push it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, do you know what? If he can do it, why can't I do it?
Yep.
And why are we now sat with this much firepower as an agency and not doing it at the same time? Yes, I understand this 60-second tour might not be on brand for this company, but why are we not trying? And that's where I was like, do you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was after the point where I'd done everything at the company. I was like, I've got time on my hands now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about leaving. I'm not sure on it. I'm
Yeah.
not putting any big deals in the pipeline, because if I'm going to leave, I'll leave money on the table. And I went, you know what? Let's do it.
Okay.
So I got my partner to come and film me and chase me around this house.
Nice.
And crudely edited some really bad music and just
Went for it. And so you posted it that evening.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up the next morning, you've got 10,000 odd views to it. You walk into Marston Parsons the next morning.
No problem.
And it was no problem at the start.
No problem.
And then, so when did they have a problem? How long did it take for someone to say, Oliver, can we have a meeting with you?
So it took about a week
Okay.
for the new regional director to come and have a chat with me.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, this isn't on brand. But, we've had a chat and maybe you can be our guinea pig for the company to give it a go. And I just turned around to him and said, I'm not being a guinea pig for someone. And this was after I'd got an offer on this house through that video, which was on wasn't YouTube Shorts, because YouTube Shorts wasn't the thing, but it was like this long form video on YouTube, and we got an offer from it.
So you got, so this was your first video. Yeah. You put it in on YouTube. You get X amount of views on YouTube, which produces a buyer.
Yeah, at 2.4 million. And it was on
2.4 million pounds, which is potentially what, 50,000 odd pounds.
2.5%.
2.5%, 60 odd thousand pound fee for the company. And you've sat down and said, look, I've done one video and I've just made the company £60,000, and a client who is exceptionally happy.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's not on brand, Ollie.
Yeah.
Did you ask why?
Yeah, millions of times. They couldn't give me an answer. They just said it's not on brand.
And that was just the hard line of it's not on our brand.
That was it. And then I had another one of our sellers in a different office to ours who actually saw that video.
Yeah.
And reached out to me and went, this is an awesome concept. Obviously you're not a big personality, but why don't you come around and do a video at our place as well?
Nice.
So I did, because I was asked to by the seller.
Yeah.
And I did it. I posted it. And then the day after that was when shit hit the fan. That was when they were like, you can't be doing this. This is ridiculous. It reflects badly on our company. And I turned around to them and said, I've not just done this out of free will.
Yeah.
One of the sellers has contacted me here and I've done the video for them. They've asked for it. They pay our fee. What's the problem here? And they were like, no, we can't have you do this anymore. It's completely unacceptable, X, Y, and Z. And I think at that point, if I hadn't have been doing the figures I've been doing and making them a lot of money, I would have been sacked in 2 seconds flat.
Do you think part of it is because they were concerned that you personally were going to become bigger than them and have more reach than them?
100%. And it's the same with most big corporate agencies. I love the fact that there's still 2 massive agencies that don't let their staff have LinkedIn profiles. I don't know who's doing that much on LinkedIn at the same time, but yes, they always worry about it. And I think they should take a leaf out of Knight Frank Hampton's books, where they've actually let their agents have a bit more free reign and do it. And as a result, the Knight Frank and Hampton's profile pages on Instagram have got hundreds of thousands of followers, and they do so much business through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always a cause for concern when someone starts to try and be bigger than the company itself. I wasn't trying to do that.
No.
And and I don't think anyone actually really is. We're just trying to do more business and make ourselves more of a personality so people want to come to us. I was making sod all in commission at M&P type thing. But the more people come to me, great, the more money I make, and it's more for the company at that point.
Yeah.
But they always worry that you're creating your own brand, like you're going to go and they were worried that I was putting myself out there to go and get a better job. Reality was the money I was making there, no other agency could offer me the same kind of package. I wasn't doing anything, and they knew that. Everyone knows each other. If you're interviewing at some other places, the managers know that, but they always worry about that. So for agents that are trying to do it, just be careful which agency you're at if you want to try and set something up, because most of them aren't happy with it still.
So from a, I guess, social media point of view, but also perhaps business point of view, as someone who's clearly been relentless and very consistent. You know, you mentioned before that in your first year it was negative of 20,000, but you're still here and you kept on going, been posting consistently for, you know, a number of years. I think a lot of people, a lot of the younger generation will post perhaps similar to what M&P did. They did 2 posts, 200 views, and then just kind of stopped it. What would you say to someone who's, you know, looking to start building their social following? And this is from real experience, right? You've been there and you've done it. What would you say to them?
Just post. Don't look at the views or the likes to start with, because the reality is if you've got 2 followers, if you can get more than 2 views, you've done an amazing job already.
I love that.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Like, people are so concerned about, I've got 5,000 followers, but I'm getting 200 views. You're still getting in front of 200 people.
Yeah.
You put 200 people in front of you, you'd shit yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple. I think it's just being consistent with it, and all of the biggest agents on socials are just consistent with it. Full stop. And it's just starting, keeping going. Don't look at the views. Just know what you're posting for. And do it that way. Because if you get hung up on the fact that you've posted 2 videos and you've not had a viral video, well, you're the same as 99.9999% of other people.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So you just need to keep going. And it took me, 18, 19 months before my videos actually started taking off.
Yeah.
And once I worked out that little niche that changed my videos slightly, then I started getting 50, 100, 150, 200, 1,000 and more views.
Yeah.
But it was consistency and keeping it going. The same way as in any job, you fail and you fail and fail, and you finally find that bit that works, and then you do it. You just got to find a little niche, but don't worry about the views and the likes to start with.
So
it's going to take a while.
What worked for you? What was that moment that you did for the people? People listening and watching. The element of something happened, it was going wrong. I'm not really getting well. I've just tweaked something, or I've just done something slightly different.
Yeah.
What was that?
I worked out the algorithms.
Go on.
Can you tell us what they are? Jesus.
I worked out the algorithms because what I was doing before is I'm very good with a computer from the music production days and so on. So I can sit and edit a video for, I think the longest I sat and edited one video was for 48 hours straight.
Wow.
But so I did super, super high-end edit stuff on these videos, put them to music, and it didn't really strike a chord with anyone. It was getting maybe 3,000-4,000 views a time, but it wasn't really striking a chord. And then I switched it up and slowed it down. Still did the edits, but slowed it down a bit and did a voiceover. And all of my videos, my partner took the piss out of me for the other day because she was scrolling down my feed and it just all started the exact same way, which was, this is what X amount of money can buy you in X location.
Yeah.
Hooked.
That was the hook.
It's the most iconic sentence, and once you've heard it, you can't unhear it.
No, exactly. And you're hooked on it. And that first 3 to 5 seconds on Instagram is your single most important time. Full stop. Because everyone's got a tiny short-term memory now, is just nothing. Like, they scroll. Unless something catches you on Instagram, you're not going to watch it. And that change then went from the 3,000-4,000 videos to my first 100,000 video when I did that. And then they've gone all the way up to 1 million views now type thing. And amazing. I think my Instagram's now on 28 million views. And all of those have come in the last 9-10 months.
Amazing.
So your page is really interesting. And I was looking at it before you obviously came on this podcast just to kind of see those videos. And as you said, it's that first sentence that you hook people.
Yeah.
And the viewing numbers on each of your videos are, they're huge, right? But we had a meeting this morning in our office and we were talking about, in terms of posting property content, but then also finding the balance of posting personal stuff. And so you're building professional brands, but then you're also building personal brands. The thing that was interesting for me on your page, and I don't know if there's a reason behind it of why you've done it, there wasn't much about you. And sitting here talking about your journey, it's actually, it's very interesting. And what we've realized is that people love a story and they love the journey. Have you made a conscious effort of just sticking to property?
So I do it in two ways. Like a lot of my page and reels and things like that are property based. I share a lot about me and my stories most of the time. And with the Open Book podcast as well, I shared a lot of stuff personally there as well. I just think it's one of those, it comes down to the reality of I have so many video tours I can post. I have so little time to post personal stuff as well. And like I share big significant moments, like when we found out we're having a baby, I put that up on Instagram and things like that. But a story is very important. Like I still get people that message me to this day saying they've started following me 2 years ago and they've loved seeing the growth of what I'm doing. But that's more through the properties that I'm getting on than seeing me personally. It more comes down to I don't have time to post those videos at the moment because the videos generate so many inquiries and so much interest and so many deals that sacrificing a good day to post that video, to post a photo of me, it just doesn't make sense to me. But when there's slower times, then I absolutely look at the personal stuff 100%.
Do you think your followers know who the real Ollie is though?
I think so. I've shared quite a lot on my page when I've had some really bad times. I'm not just like, oh, we just done a massive deal, fantastic, look how much money I'm making, it's amazing. I share a lot, and like when I started the company, I shared a lot about it because I was diagnosed with severe anxiety and depression, so having panic attacks twice a day, every single day for about 3 months. I actually ended up in hospital for it for 7 days because I couldn't walk after like panic attacks for such a long time.
And what was it down to?
Worry, just general fear, and I get anxiety and panic when there's nothing left for me to do. And it started at Marsh & Parsons, started thinking I was having heart attacks on like a weekly basis. And then I left, it was fine for a bit, and then it started again. I think it was the combination of the fear of, oh shit, what have I just done? Like I've just left a company where I made like nearly 200 grand a year to then start up on my own and go completely free ball. But I think they do. I share quite a lot of that stuff because I think it's quite good to be honest about those things, and it's from the people that are joining and like wanted to join my company as well, is to see the reality of it and not know that it's just it's just amazing all the time. It's hard to be an estate agent, let alone hard to be a self-employed agent and then running your own company at the same time. It's hard.
So I found a quote that you said on a podcast, which from the sounds of it, perhaps you now live by. The faster you stop giving a shit about anyone, the faster your life becomes a lot easier.
100%.
How true is that?
Very true. I learned that another one of my past lives when I was 13, 14, I wanted to be a YouTuber when KSI was in his infancy and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what, gaming videos are amazing. We'll do that. And I got obviously bullied heavily in person for it in school because I'm the guy that's shouting and swearing on YouTube. And I stopped YouTube for it. And my dad actually told me that, which is the faster you stop caring about what people think, the easier your life will get. I had so many people tell me that it was a stupid idea to start my own company at 25, 26. I just don't care. Like it's different I've changed it slightly, which is the faster you stop caring about what people think, the better it is. But you still do need to listen to those people that are key in your life type thing, within reason, obviously. But if you've got an investor in your company, obviously you can't not give a shit what they think type thing. But I genuinely don't care what anyone thinks of me in any way, shape or form.
So what about and I've gone through some of them, what about the comments on some of the pages? There's some really nasty ones.
Oh yeah, I genuinely believe I'm one of the most hated estate agents in the UK.
well, that's another quote that I picked up from you. And this is word for word. My content is aimed at pissing people off.
100%.
So you think you're the most hated
I think I'm one of the most hated estate agents in the UK. Closely with Tanya. Tanya gets a lot of horrible comments, nothing to do with the properties. It's more about her, which is really not nice. But I love those comments because it's normally someone with a profile, a picture of a cat or a dog or a cow, and they've got one follower. They don't follow anyone themselves. It's just an anonymous account.
Yeah.
But I look at it in the way that you wouldn't say that to me in person.
Yeah.
Full stop. And also, the more you comment, the better my video does. So there's a comment.
Helps your algorithm.
It helps the algorithm. Instagram doesn't care what's being commented, just that there's comments.
Yeah.
And I think it's a video from about 12 months ago now, where I've just got a feed of comments from one person that's about 60 comments long, just because I keep antagonizing him, going, are you sure there's nothing else you want to say? Like anything else that annoys you about the flat? This and that? I love it. I personally believe if you're not pissing enough, another one of my famous quotes, if you're not pissing enough people off, you're not doing it the right way. If you're making everyone happy, you're not annoying enough people.
But do you not think social media has to, Instagram and Facebook, they have to do something about
100%.
These faceless accounts where it can be a cat.
Yeah.
And, nowadays, especially I think more so perhaps with the younger generation, where they are heavily influenced by social media and negativity, do not think they need to do something about
100%.
it.
Like not every, I found that out very quickly. Not everyone is in the same boat as me with these kind of things.
Yeah.
Like I don't care about these comments. I actually find them hilarious. But I'd say 99% of people, if you get a viral video and then you get 500 comments and 300 of them are either commenting on your listing or how you look or how you sound, and I get the sound one a lot, most people are going to fall apart from that because it's not nice. And especially with, I sound like an old man now, but with the younger generation who are like, it's been more cuddly and so on, a bit more protected. It needs to be looked after and sorted, because you see so many people, I've read an article about it, so many people that actually commit suicide from having so much hate. There's even been celebrities that have done it from social media. It's just going to keep getting worse the bigger and bigger it gets. So I think they tried to do something, or tried to implement where you had to verify yourself to have an account. That lasted for a whole 2 days. But that's the only next stage, because otherwise you're going to keep getting bots, anonymous accounts, or people that just got nothing better to do with their time, just taking their anger out on you.
Entrepreneurship. You started your business at 25. Have you had mentors? How did you went to private school? Was there anything from your schooling or your upbringing that kind of gave you that entrepreneur, that drive to want to start your own business?
It's not mentorship, but my dad was a big entrepreneur.
Yeah.
He owned a financial advisory company, put it on the not the stock market, the one just below that. I can't remember what it's called. Exited for just over £80 million.
Wow.
And he started that company basically the year after I was born. So I've seen that grow and I've seen how he's done that. And naturally, being ridiculously competitive myself, was like, okay, well, I've got to beat you now. I've got to do something else. But like that drive to go and do something on your own was from him most of the time, because he set it up from the ground up. He didn't have money to fall back on like I could have done if I wanted to. He just built this company up. He was doing property development on the side, buy to let, X, Y, and Z, investing in different companies. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's so impressive. The money at the end is amazing. I'd love to liquidate my company for 80 million quid now. That'd be amazing. But it's just, that's where it came from, I think, is just seeing what he's done and how he's grown it. And I've taken a lot of tips from what he's done. He's not a very emotive man. He doesn't give a lot away, like not a huge amount of advice. But if you ask him on something, he'll help. Like, we're looking to acquire a lettings company at the moment. I've got no idea how to do that. That's what he did for his whole career. So then he's there to help me, but he's my main influence in that.
So it might be a personal question, but I'm only going to ask it because you referenced it on another podcast, which was about 9 months ago. You said in 12 months' time, so you've still got 3 months left, you want your business to be worth £1 million. Have you got there?
So last year's turnover was 350 in gross profit. This year's, with the brokers that have just started and coming on, should be close to 750 gross profit. So if you go for the old school multiplier adage, then we're way over that. Actual yearly income, no. Knowing my luck, we'll get to 999,999, and it will royally piss me off. Like,
you'll have a fall in the last day.
Wall Street, I made £51 million in 1 year, and it really pissed me off because I was $1 million short a week of whatever. That'll be what it'll be. But when income wise, no. Value wise, Yes.
I love that. And especially considering in your first year, you were making a loss, yet you were persistent and you're now in this position. What would you say were your biggest challenges?
I think my biggest challenge individually was getting through the door of houses, because no shop, like in an area where it's very old school, shop fronts, all of that kind of stuff. You've got the local agent that's been around for 500 million years. It's quite hard to break that norm. So getting through the door of my first few properties was so hard that it was next to impossible, because it's like, look, hey, take a chance on me. Like, you know, we might have known each other 5-6 years ago, just started a company, got no listings, I've got no buyers. Come on, just give me a chance type thing. That was the first struggle. But after we did that, we started getting referrals on referrals on referrals. And now, as we were talking about a second ago, I actually get to say no to more properties now than I have to say yes to, because I have more than enough properties on the market at the moment. And I get to say no to that. But the hardest thing was getting through the door. I was never struggling with motivation. I'd gone for it. I'd burnt all of my bridges with the corporate world. I had no choice but to do it. So I still do it now, but I work like 18, 19-hour days to make sure I'm getting that edge up on everyone else in the area. Not that I would ever recommend that to anyone. That's a terrible thing to say. But yeah, I'd say just getting through the door of my first listing was hard. But after that, it was fine. But yeah.
And so now you've got how many brokers?
So it's now 7.
Yep.
And it should be 18 by the end of June.
Wow.
With people finishing off gardening leave.
Amazing.
Like that.
So
18.
18 brokers. So look, it's gone,
Wow.
It's growing fast.
Yeah.
You've gone from not just having to be an advisor, an agent, a broker in selling, but now you're not managing, but you're mentoring, and ultimately you have an obligation for your brokers.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a hard definition, isn't it?
Yeah,
with a
100%.
broker, because no one's really the boss.
You're not really boss, like
exactly.
partner. You're a partner, to
Exactly.
them, you know, but you run the brokerage, and so you're there to support them and help them grow in their businesses. So you're kind of having to take off. You know, we see it with Daniel here, don't we? Sometimes where you have to take off your kind of agent hat and put on your business hat and your mentoring hat and coach. And is that difficult?
Yes, it is hard. It's hard because you go for it. Like I'm also a massive control freak. Everything has to be done in my way, which is why it was so scary for me to bring on my first broker. Now it's rolling. I kind of am a bit more confident. But yes, it's hard to go from me selling stuff to trying to give some business to other people, because I don't want them just to be on their own on that sense, and doing all that stuff at the same time. Luckily, I haven't had anyone yet who's been difficult or made my life complicated. When that comes around, that will be hard, because I've never been a boss before. I wasn't even a manager before I set up my own company, and I don't know how to deal with that. I'm sure it will come naturally at that point, but yeah, of course it is, because if you're not used to it either, as I say, come from a role like me, I was a senior negotiator or associate when I left. I'd never been in control of people. Not that I'm in control of people with a brokerage, but been like the head of the table and had to help people. It's complicated. Like, I'm fine with leads and giving business out to people. I love that. I'm so good at generating leads. But the support and like speaking to people constantly and, you know, trying to help them out, that's hard, because it's a whole new role of what I never expected at the same time to just try and maintain as well.
And so obviously you've got 5 now. Hopefully June you'll have 18, which is obviously amazing. And often I find people, when they set up a business, and we've had, so for example, Camilla Dell, who was on our most recent podcast, one of the things that she struggled most with was finding the right people. Do you think because we're going through, I guess you can call it paradigm shift, in as far as so many good agents wanting to leave the corporate 100%. World, that you can kind of cherry pick? Are you open to saying what sort of things you offer to them?
Yeah. So because I didn't want to have to babysit my first few brokers, because I don't have time for that, we really wanted to get some good people in. the three out of the five had been in corporate agency. 2 of them came over from other brokerages. Like they know the job.
First one's more experienced.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what I did to essentially try and lure them away was our commission splits are really, really good for a brokerage, 75-25. But I also offered a signing bonus, which I've not seen really in the industry before. And I see it in law firms, you see it in sports and things like that. And I went, do you know what? I'm still an infant company. It's just me, my PA and my deal progressor. That's it. So let's give an incentive out. The second I said, started like, you have to try and poach people, obviously. The second I said, look, here's the thing. We'll give you a signing bonus of X amount of money, which will tide you over for 6 months so that you're more comfortable. Would you then make that leap? Because I think for most corporate agents, it's the unknown of not having your basic salary and not having the comfortability.
Building a pipeline, how long it takes to
Correct,
deal.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, do you know what? All right, I would have liked to have a signing bonus if I
Yeah.
went to a brokerage to get me set up. And that's what we started offering. Now they differ depending on the person.
Yeah.
We've just paid a 15 grand signing bonus to someone who is very good.
Is that
thank
strings
God.
attached though, or is that
Yeah, you've got to be there for a year.
a year? Yeah,
A year.
that makes sense.
Otherwise people would come because they're
Yeah,
not,
of course.
they're not
Take
stuck to
the
me.
15
Here's
grand
your
and
15 grand. All right, I'm off tomorrow.
2 weeks later, hand in the notice.
Yeah, the riskiest business model known to man. Here's money, please stay. But it's a year. It's a minimum of a year sign-in bonus.
Yeah.
So they've got to be there for a while. The reality is that most of the time in sales, you're probably not going to do a deal like get completion money for about 4, 5, 6 months is the reality.
Yeah.
Unless you find someone crazy and you do it differently, but that's about the time. So they need money to tide them over is the reality.
And do they pay to be part of the business?
Yeah, so you got like the subscription fees
Yeah.
and the marketing fees and things like that. It's not too bad. It's $500 a month because we're a lot more self-sufficient in that sense. It doesn't go towards we'll help you with photographers and videographers on super listings. Otherwise, that's on you. Basically, what we cover is your Rightmove, Zoopla costs, your boards, AML, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I do believe that self-employed, you are self-employed.
Yeah.
You can't just rely on me. You're here to make a shit ton of money, essentially. And if you're working on a 75-25 split, you could essentially make your whole yearly salary from your old agency in 4 deals if you play it right. Play it well.
100%.
What commission structure were you on at M&P? Or can you just, maybe you don't have to tell us, I don't know if you...
Oh, absolutely.
But
I
what was
have
the
no love lost between me and M&P.
What's the highest commission?
So
you would
the
have had?
highest you could hit was
Percentage-wise?
the highest you could hit was 30%.
Yeah, that's the highest. So
and
that's obviously what
That's
you've
the
done.
highest, and
towards
that
a really
was
good year.
almost impossible to
Yeah.
hit because you had to do X amount of money a month, and I
Yeah.
only hit it once. I did 210 grand of business in 1 month.
Yeah.
Climbed to 30%, went back down to 25%.
Yeah.
And I kind of stayed around the 25% most of my time.
Yeah.
When I was in Fulham.
But the average, who do you like? The average
is about-
negotiator, 10, 15?
So Marsh and Parsons, give them their credit. Best commission structure of a
Yeah.
corporate agency
I've heard
I've
that.
seen.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Don't know what it's like now. Dexter's owned them.
Yeah.
Probably changed a bit. But best commission structure. So you started on 10%.
Yeah.
That was your base minimum.
Yeah.
Most people were around the 12.5 to 15%
Yeah.
if they were half decent. So it wasn't too bad. But I always also like this. I made them just over 750 grand in 1 year, and I walked away with 200 grand of it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just giving you 550 grand here. Like, come on. But the commission structure is so low that it's just a game changer. Like, most agents, if they're okay at their job, probably make 40 grand a year in London.
But taking away 200k from 750 income for most agents,
Amazing.
That's pretty
Still
good.
good.
Amazing.
Yeah,
like,
still good. Yeah.
when you look in hindsight, as I have done many a time, and go, do you know what? I actually made a lot of money. That's crazy for a corporate estate agent to make that amount of money most of the time.
At a young
Unless-
age.
Yeah.
At a young age, unless you work in the super high level private sectors where you might even get like high commissions and X and Y.
Yeah.
But that was a crazy amount of money. But for most people, they're never going to hit that. For most agents, if you can hit 100 grand at a corporate agency, you are balling.
Yeah.
You are amazing. But most people, I think, make about 35, 40 grand as a standard in a normal office.
Yeah.
And if you're making 35, 40 grand, you're still doing what? I don't know, 400 grand in fees, 350, 400 grand in fees.
Yeah.
75% of that, like, you're still walking 300 grand if you're making 400 grand.
So
It's a lot of money.
before we go to the quick fire questions,
Yeah.
one last question. How much money do you want your brokers to make on average?
That's a good question. As much as they can possibly make. Is the honest answer. I think so. We laid out a roadmap for our brokers when they've joined of what they can expect to earn over 3 years, essentially. So year one, I've kind of said that you're looking to make around 50 to 75. I think is a good first year. Slightly below that or slightly above that, fine. But just when you're getting started, I think that's a good first year. Year two, I would expect about 175 to 200 once you set yourself up, depending on location, obviously, as well. And then year three, 250 upwards is my honest opinion. Because if I'm doing 200 grand a year on my own, and I've got all of the extra stresses of what goes on around owning a company, you can do that as well. And if I'm going to do 350 gross on my own this year, and then 200 net after all of the Rightmove and Zoopla costs, you can do that, and you don't have to pay the Rightmove and Zoopla costs. That's on me. So about after 2 years, I think you should be looking about 200-ish.
Okay, right. To finish the quick fire round. Now, these are quick fire questions and quick fire answers. Okay. Benj, do you wanna start off?
By the way, we probably could have carried on going for ages.
Yeah, I was about to say we could do a part 2 at some point.
Talk and talk.
Super interesting. What's one thing young agents should stop doing?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. It's meant to be quickfire. Well, stop caring what other people think.
Nice.
The
one most important habit that got you where you are today.
Consistency.
Love that.
Just waking up and doing the same thing every day.
Love that.
I think I know the answer to this one because I've seen one of your videos, which is where I first saw you actually. If you could sell a celeb's home, who would it be?
Oh, I have spoken about this. I can't remember. So there was a house. It's not quickfire, but there was the old Albus Dumbledore, the first Albus Dumbledore, used to live in Shepherd's Bush. And he owned one of the double-fronted houses on Ashchurch Park Villas. That was always my dream to sell. Full stop. There's 1,000,001 celebrities' houses. You'd love to sell the Beckham's house. That would be insane. There is one specifically, I can't remember what it is, but I've always been obsessed with it. I can't remember what it is. But
because you did one of the red brick property and you said, if this house was a celeb, it would be George Clooney.
Oh,
I think that went viral, and that's where I first saw you.
Right, the craziest thing a client has ever requested?
For all the doors, all the cabinets, and the front door to be painted pink between exchange and completion.
Brilliant.
And it was a 3,000 square foot house. There was a lot of doors and cabinets.
What is one red flag in a client you spot instantly?
The way they talk to you. The fee is different. They'll negotiate. But if they're really like aggressive or very blunt in a bad way, just don't bother. In short, you can take some form of being told off every so often, but just as we said, not all business is a good business. If they're going to be an arse to you at the start, they're going to get even worse all the way down the line.
Nice. And last question now, it's a bit different to what it says on here. Sum up the Fulham and West and Shepherd's Bush market in one word.
Awesome.
Love that. Ollie, it's been a pleasure. It's been, again, brilliant for us to listen to. I'm sure everyone that's also watching and listening to this podcast has learned many tips and heard a brilliant story, which is certainly going to inspire them, in their journey through maybe not just an estate agent, but through their own personal businesses. We just wanted to say thank you very much for coming on.
Of course, thank you for having us.
We truly are also inspired by you, and a lot of people out there has. And I'm going to have to watch you every single morning now. My algorithm just absolutely
you'll get bored of this is
every
what
single
after
morning.
A while.
And so where can people find you?
Where can people find you?
That trademark sentence?
All of my socials are Oliver Howard LDN, so the short for London.
Love that. Perfect. Guys, if you've learned anything from today's podcast, please go and follow Ollie, follow us. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we cannot wait to see you next time. Thank you.